In this video I will explain section 9.4, calculating with fractions. Let's start with exercise 26. Here we get a few functions with fractions and we need to shorten those functions. In exercise A, the function that we get is f of x is x over 5 plus 3x over 5. These two fractions have the same denominator of 5, so we can add up the numerators. X plus 3x is 4x. So the final answer becomes f of x is 4x over 5. Let's move on to h. Here we get two functions that don't have the same denominator, so we need to make them the same first. 5 and 7, we can make them both into 35. So 35 will become the new denominator. With the first one, we went from 5 to 35 by doing times 7. So we need to do the numerator times 7 as well. 7 times 2x is 14x. In the second one, we went from 7 to 35 by doing times 5. So we need to do the numerator times 5 as well. 3 times 5 is 15. Now we have two fractions with the same denominator, so we can add up the numerator again. 14x plus 15 cannot be added up. So we just write that as a sum. This will become the numerator, the denominator will be 35. So this is the shortened function of h. Let's look at e. 2 over 3 plus 5 over x. Again, not the same denominator, so multiply the denominators by each other to get a new denominator. That means we get 3x. As a denominator. Now here I multiplied by x, so I should multiply 2 by x as well, so the numerator becomes 2x. Here I multiplied by 3, so I should multiply 5 by 3 as well to get 15. Now I can add up these two fractions. The numerator becomes 2x plus 15. Cannot be added together, so just write it as a sum, and the denominator 3x. So the final answer is L of x equals 2x plus 15 over 3x. In the last one, m, again we get two fractions that don't have the same denominator. So let's rewrite them so that they do have the same denominator. I can multiply them by each other, but there is a quicker way. If I make them both into 10x, that's the quickest way to do this. From 5x to 10x means multiplying by 2, so I should multiply 4 by 2 as well, so I get 8. Don't know what's going on with my light. Hopefully it stays on until the end of this video. 2x becomes 10x by doing times 5, so 3 times 5, again 15. So my denominator, my final answer, is 10x. 8 plus 15 I can add up, so I get 23 as a numerator. So m of x is 23 over 10x is the final answer for f. In the theory, at the bottom of page 67, they tell us how to multiply fractions and simplify fractions. When you multiply two fractions, you multiply the numerators by each other, and that's the new numerator. You also multiply the denominators by each other, and that's the new denominator. If you multiply a whole number by a fraction, all you have to do is multiply the whole number by the numerator of that fraction, and the denominator stays the same. Here again, numerator times numerator is numerator, and denominator times denominator is the new denominator. Whenever you simplify a fraction, you divide the numerator and the denominator by the same number. So 9 and 15 both have a factor of 3, so we can divide by 3. The top and the bottom, so 9 divided by 3 becomes 3, 15 divided by 3 becomes 15. And it works the same with variables. Here 2x can be written as 2 times x, 6x squared can be written as 2 times 3 times x, not as 6, because if we write it as 2 times 3 then we have an extra factor of 2 in common with the top. So we can divide the top by and the bottom both by 2 and by x. That means in the bottom all you have left is 3x, so that becomes the new denominator. In the top you've divided everything away, So all you have left is 1, because if you divide 2x by 2x, then the result of that is 1. It works the same with the last one. Let's put this into practice in exercise 29. First we have to simplify some fractions. So I first break this apart into common factors. 36 and 28 has the factor 4 in common, so I can write 36 as 4 times 9. A squared is a times a. In the bottom I can write 28 as 4 times 7 times a. So I can divide the top and the bottom both by 4 and by a. That means in the top all I have left is 9a, so that's my numerator, and in the bottom is 7, so this is the simplified version of the fraction, 9a over 7. In exercise C, we have 4x for a numerator and 8x to the power of 3 as a denominator. Now, nothing much we can do with the numerator except saying 4 times x. 8 I can write as 4 times 2, so that I have a factor of 4 in common, and x to the power of 3 is x multiplied by itself 3 times. So that means I can divide both the numerator and the denominator by 4x. There goes the light. Can I fix it? Hang on. There we go. So if I divide the numerator and the denominator both by 4x, then the top becomes 1, because 4x divided by 4x is just 1. And here, if I divide by 4x, all I have left is 2, this x and that x, so 2x squared. And that's the simplified version. Let's multiply some fractions in exercise 30. Remember, whenever you multiply two fractions, you do numerator times numerator and it will become the new numerator, and the denominators multiplied by each other becomes the new denominator. So 2 times 5 is 10, that's the numerator. X times 7 is 7x. Always check if you can simplify. In this case we cannot, so it's the final answer, 10 over 7x. In E we need to multiply a whole number by a fraction, so just like I said, multiply the whole number just by the numerator. You can also look at it like this. Now you have two fractions again. This times this becomes the new numerator, 1 times that becomes the new denominator. So 3x times 2x to the power of 2 is 6x to the power of 3. That's the new numerator, and these multiplied by each other is just the same as the one we already had, 15x to the power of 3. Now I can simplify, just like we did in the previous exercise. In 6 and in 15 I can find a factor of 3. So 6 I can write as 2 times 3 times x times x times x. And in the bottom I can write 15 as 5 times 3 times x times x times x. Alright, now we can definitely divide by x to the power of 3, both in the numerator and the denominator, and also by the factor of 3. So all of this goes away, and the simplified version is just 2 over 5. In exercise 32 we have to simplify functions again, but above the exercise they say when the numerator, so the top of a fraction, consists of several terms, so if you see things separated by a plus or a minus, then you have different terms. Then we can split the fraction into several fractions with the same denominator. So this one, the one I wrote down here, can be split into two separate fractions, both with the same denominator of 4. So it becomes 6 over 4, copy down the minus in between, and 8x over 4. Now, these two fractions we can simplify separately from each other. 6 over 4 is the same as a 1.5. 1 and 1 over 2. And here I can divide by 4. The top and the bottom can both be divided by 4, so all I have left is 2x. Copy down the minus in the middle. And here we have simplified version of the function g. g of x is 1.5 minus 2x. In d, the numerator does not consist of several terms because it's not separated by a plus and a minus. It's actually times, 12 times this. So what we should do first is remove the brackets. So we get 12 times 2x, that's 24x, and 12 times 3, that's 36. Now we have separate terms, so now we can split up this into two separate fractions. 24x over 6 plus 36 over 6. Now 24 can be divided by 6. That becomes 4. So the fraction on the left becomes 4x. The fraction on the right is just 36 divided by 6, which is 6. So this is the simplified version of the function k of x. In the last one, exercise 33, they become a little bit more difficult, but the way to go about it is the same. We start with a function that is a fraction. The numerator consists of two terms, so we can split this fraction up into two separate fractions. That means we get x squared, this is a square, over x minus 8x over x. Now x squared divided by x, that's just x. And 8x divided by x is just 8. Copy down the minus in between and we're all done. The last one that we do in this video is 33d. Again, two terms in the numerator, so we can split them up into separate fractions. 6x to the power of 3 over 2x squared and 8x squared over 2x squared. Now, 6 divided by 2 is 3. X to the power of 3 divided by x squared is x. So this is the first term. Here we can divide 8 by 2. That's 4. And x squared divided by x squared is 1, so that just falls away. That means that the final answer is d of x is 3x plus 4.